Hello there. There's talk that Rishi Sunak is getting cold feet about the breakneck rush to net zero. But will he really do what's being proposed? So we're now being told that the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak will be making a speech later this week outlining plans to water down our rush to net zero. And he's called an emergency cabinet meeting to discuss the details. But what he is said to be proposing would mean higher greenhouse gas emissions for longer. So just watch the eco-loons' heads start exploding. However, net zero is plugged directly into just about every law of the land, and in international treaties that we've signed up to as well, including the Brexit Trade and Cooperation Agreement. So, if Rishi does not change any of these laws, then he's got to offset these emissions caused by delaying some net zero plans somewhere else, or face the inevitable legal challenges from the eco-loony types, ending with defeat in the Supreme Court. Oh yes. But where would he cut those emissions is the big question, and a bit on that later on. Think of it like a budget and taxes. The Chancellor always ends up giving stuff away for votes, and it's not until you dig into the detail that you find out that the Treasury has won after all. And this will be no different. So what's being proposed? Well, the first thing to note is that ministers are still saying that they are totally and wholeheartedly committed to net zero by 2050. So nothing's actually changed. As I said, emissions will have to be cut elsewhere. Anyway, the sorts of things being proposed to placate those worried about the cost of net zero to them personally is a possible extension from 2030 to 2035 for the ban on the sale of new petrol and diesel vehicles, extending the timescale for the ban on building homes without gas boilers, extending or removing the ban on the sale of oil burners for those homes that are off the gas grid, as well as easing the net zero pressure on landlords. There's also talk about ditching any new burdensome recycling measures, as well as no new taxes on jetting off on holiday. And all of this seems to stem from the narrow Tory Uxbridge and South Ruislip by-election victory, won by the Tories seemingly because of the Labour London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, imposing that huge ultra-low emission zone expansion. Something that has irked a great many people, some of whom have taken matters into their own hands in a very physical, criminal damage sort of way. And those actions have drawn the happiness of former Tory party leader Ian Duncan Smith, the MP for the Greater London constituency of Chingford and Woodford Green, who said, "A lot of people in my constituency have been cementing up the cameras or putting plastic bags over them. I am happy for them to do it because they are facing an imposition that no one wants and they have been lied to about it. The actions you are seeing show how angry people are at what is being imposed on them. Temperatures are running high where the cost of net zero is concerned." Now, Rishi Sunak and his Tories will not have planned to come up with these proposals just based on the Uxbridge result. They will also have done a lot of private polling, especially among their own support base. So delaying the process of forcing us to use electric cars and heat pumps could enable the Tories to salvage some seats in the upcoming general election drubbing they are currently set to receive, if the polls can be believed. But as I said, what the government giveth with one hand, it always taketh back with the other. So I'm wondering if the deal will be to delay the complete takeover of the roads with electric vehicles on the understanding that the national speed limit is to be lowered to, say, 60 or even 55 mph. On the basis that for most internal combustion engined cars, the most efficient speed is at about the 55 mph mark, where you generally get the best miles per gallon of fuel. And any faster than 55 mph, the MPG rapidly reduces and falls off a cliff. Now, according to NFU Mutual, the most efficient speed in an EV is below 10 mph. So planet-conscious eco-types had better start slowing down, otherwise we'll be sparking up the gas-powered power stations to charge your cars. Anyway, many of us have been saying for a long time that walking the UK economy off a cliff in order to achieve net zero can only hurt us. So despite her government saying it is still fully committed to net zero by 2050, it was refreshing to hear the Home Secretary Suella Braverman say, "But ultimately, we have to adopt a pragmatic approach, a proportionate approach, and one that also serves our goals, and we are not going to save the planet by bankrupting the British people." But as ever, this has divided the Tory party, with the former COP26 chairman Alok Sharma saying that this will not help economically or electorally. While another Tory MP, Chris Skidmore, said, "We will look back on this moment as Sunak's slow-motion car crash." Now, the usual suspects are, of course, upset because of these changes to the net zero plans. And one of those is, as expected, the single Green Party MP Caroline Lucas, who put out on X, "This is pure political game playing from Sunak, but all of us will pay the price. Delaying energy efficiency measures will mean higher bills and more emissions. Delaying green investment will mean fewer jobs and less prosperity. Delaying petrol ban will mean dirtier air. What a farce." She seems to be the one desperate to bankrupt this country. And criticism has also come from the auto industry. They are fuming because the certainty of these net zero plans was what they poured billions of investment into. Mike Hawes, the chief exec of the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, said, "Government has played a key part in bringing some of that investment to the UK, and Britain can and should be a leader in zero-emission mobility, both as a manufacturer and a market. To make this a reality, however, consumers must want to make the switch, which requires from government a clear, consistent message, attractive incentives and charging infrastructure that gives confidence rather than anxiety. Confusion and uncertainty will only hold them back." And that was echoed by the AA. Now, I get the impression that our plans put us at the forefront of net zero, but the reality is just beginning to bite. But those who've invested the money want us to plough ahead regardless. I wonder why. And the Ford UK chair, Lisa Brankin, said, "This is the biggest industry transformation in over a century, and the UK 2030 target is a vital catalyst to accelerate Ford into a cleaner future." Now, personally, I've never been much of an early adopter, but I do like those that are, because they pay the big bucks to get in early and get the privilege of reporting all the bugs and living with them until a new and better, cheaper version arrives. And I'm getting the distinct impression that in the UK we are among the earliest net zero adopters, and it's being forced on us. It's bankrupting the nation, and it really hurts the poorest.